WordPress Accessibility Day 2024. Beyond Automation, Why Manual Accessibility Testing is Important, with speaker Victoria Nduka, User Experience Designer. This presentation was recorded October 2024.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to WordPress Accessibility Day 2024. My name is Pete Chaneri, and I am a UX and accessibility designer. So I'm particularly looking forward to the next session. Please feel free to add all your questions in a Zoom Q&A section, and we'll answer them at the end of the session. And also use the chat to interact with us and with the other attendees, which is always fun to do. So the next session by Victoria is one I'm particularly looking forward to as a designer. The title is Beyond Automation, Why Manual Accessibility Testing is Important. And Victoria Nduka is a user experience designer, passionate about technology, representation, and accessibility. She writes technical articles about accessibility, design, and open source. And as an open source enthusiast, Victoria not only contributes to projects herself, but also encourages others to get involved, especially non-code contributors, because that's really important. You don't have to write code to contribute. When she's not advocating for better digital accessibility or diving into open source work, she's making an impact in her home country through volunteering and public speaking. While Victoria dreams of traveling the world, she is currently focused on leaving her mark locally, one contribution at a time. I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you so much, Victoria, for being here. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Pichia, for the very detailed introduction. I'm going to quickly share my screen now. All right. So today I'm going to be talking about why manual accessibility testing is important beyond automated automation. And before I delve in, I would like to give a brief overview of what prompted or inspired this talk. So like Fisher mentioned, I'm an open source contributor and also an ex-outreach intern. So during my time as an outreach intern, I contributed to the CA microscope project. My work was to improve the accessibility of the web application. And that was my very first introduction to accessibility. During the contribution phase, because outreach is usually in 3 phases, there's the initial application, the contribution phase, and the actual internship. So during the contribution phase, I was able to integrate or incorporate Axe Core, which is an automated testing tool, into the project GitHub repo. So what that integration did was every push or commit that was made to the project will be tested within GitHub. So the Axe Core testing tool will run in GitHub, and accessibility issues can be caught earlier on and fixed before that PR is merged to the repository, so that we don't introduce accessibility more issues to the project. So at the time, I felt I had done a very huge contribution, and it was huge because it was my first time working on an issue that technical. But during the actual internship, the few months of the internship, I felt, I've done most of the work during the contribution phase, so I guess I don't have much work left to do. I was very wrong, because I then started to work on manual testing during the internship and realized just how much issues were missed by those automated tools. And I thought there are a number of people like me who feel that it is enough to just run an automated Lighthouse on your web application, and it lets you know what the issues are, and you fix that, and that's okay. But that automated testing is beyond, accessibility testing is beyond automation. The manual testing is very important. So that's the reason why I thought to come and share this topic with us today. So in the next 40 minutes, we will learn what accessibility testing is, why we shouldn't rely only on automated testing, and when and what to test. Now let's dive in. So first, we're going to define the terms. Accessibility testing. Accessibility testing is the process of evaluating a website, application, or digital product to check if it's usable by people with disabilities. So I think that's simple and straightforward. Usually this evaluation is done against a standard, because if you're evaluating something, there should be a parameter, what you are using to gauge if it meets the standard. Now this standard has been put forward by the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C, in what we know as the Web Content Accessibility Guideline, or WCAG. I call it WCAG. So often when you're running an accessibility test, or when you're performing an accessibility test, what you're doing is checking, does it meet this standard? And if it does, then we know that people with disabilities can. Now there are two testing techniques. I'm sure so far you must have got that already. There's manual testing. Manual testing is where you manually test your product, all the processes, the user flow, make sure all the interactive components, make sure that everyone can use it, both people with disabilities and those with it. Automated testing is the second type testing technique, and this is where we use automated tools like Wave, Axe, and Lighthouse. These are the common ones. Now let's do a little exercise. I know we already have enough problems in the world as it is already, so we don't want to come and add a math problem to it. But this has to be done, I'm sorry. But don't worry, it's not that deep. You can do it. So the first problem is a simple math problem, really. We have a sum, 2 plus 2. I'm sure most of us already know the answer is equal to 4. That's easy. You can even count it on one hand. So you have 2, yeah, 2, then 2, that's 4. Now let's go to the second problem, which is still a sum, right? And it should be easy. Sum is not that difficult, it's arithmetic. The problem is 200 plus 731 plus 95 plus 44. Now you can't do that. It's 100. You can't count that. You only have 10 digits. Like you're adding your toes to it. 20, yeah. So you can't even count 200 out with your hands and toes. So how are you going to go about this? It would take it would take a little more mental stress, mental work to solve this problem. And most times our very first impulse when we see a problem that I know it's easy, it looks easy, it's a sum. Our very first impulse is to just whip out the calculator and just punch in the numbers and get an answer quickly. Why do we do that? To save time. Now, the calculator is a classic example of how much automation helps us. So thanks to Blaise Pascal and all the inventors after him, we have a calculator. Hallelujah. So automated testing is great. It saves time, as we just seen. And it handles repetitive tasks. So you're going to have plenty additions to do, a lot of numbers to add. You can just punch those numbers. And it reduces manual workload. So that's starting from 200 plus 159. With the calculator is easier. So that's what automated testing is similar. It helps us in the same way calculator. But there's a but. And what is that? This is a screenshot of a Lighthouse accessibility report. So when you run Lighthouse on your web page and it loads and it does the testing, this is a screenshot of what will appear on the right side of your screen. And according to these screenshots, the web page that we ran this test on has an accessibility score of 100. That is awesome, right? So if you are the person running this test and you see 100, you're like, I think my work here is done. My website is accessible. But if you take a close look at the second sentence on that screenshot, it says automated testing can only detect a subset of issues and does not guarantee the accessibility of your web app. It doesn't stop there, it continues. So manual testing is also encouraged. That means even automated tools know their limitations. So it's telling you, yeah, I know you're seeing 100, but you still have to go and test manually, just to be sure. So in simple terms, automated testing alone is not enough because automated testing tools don't catch all the accessibility issues on your website. So now the big question, what can automated tools do and what can they do? Let's find out. First, we're going to consider alt text. Automated tools will tell you whether an image has an alt text or not. So we see this screenshot from the testing Lighthouse. It says image elements have alt attributes, which is good. So it passes that test. All images must have alt attributes. So now the automated tool has told us that this image has an alt, that all the images on your website has alt attributes. But it won't tell you if the alt text is meaningful to the user or not. Now, look at these screenshots of the so-called image that is on the website that has alt attributes. From the screenshots, the image source suggests that it's a chart showing Q earnings. You see, image source says chart Q4 earnings PNG. But the alt text simply says image of a chart, sorry, which is technically correct, but who does that help? So if a user with visual impairments is, or someone who has low bandwidth and the alt text loads on their page, or the person is using a screen reader, and the screen reader reads this as image of a chart. And you know that charts are data, like they give you information. So this is a very relevant image that the user needs information about. But the alt text is saying image of a chart. That doesn't help the reader. An automated tool would likely flag this, as we've seen, as passing because it has an alt text. However, the alt text fails to provide any meaningful information about the chart's content or purpose. So you want to provide every information that users without disability have access to your website. Those with disabilities should be able to also be able to access that. And charts are important. You don't just, like, image of a chart doesn't cut it. It's not enough. It doesn't provide enough content for the user. So this is one area where automated tools alone are not enough. Now the second area is in color usage. Automated tools will tell you whether or not color contrast requirements are met. It can tell you, like the screenshots we have, it says background and foreground colors do not have a sufficient contrast ratio. It has done its job, but it won't tell you if color alone is used to convey meaning. Now, this is a screenshot from a website. I've closed the name of the website. We're not here to blame anyone or point fingers. So it's just for learning purposes. hopefully we learn a few things that we can implement on our own website so that we don't fall into this. So this is a screenshot from the website. It says, and we notice in this, let me read out the content on the screenshot. It's a text content, and it says the so and so community is dedicated to fostering an open and welcoming environment for contributors. Anyone can join our Slack workspace. Slack workspace is a hyperlink. Participate in Zoom meetings or contribute to any of our projects at any time. Feel free to check out our quick start for new contributors. That's a hyperlink. Or for more information about the so community, //. So we have two hyperlinks in these screenshots, and sighted users can clearly see that this is a hyperlink. Why or how can they know that? Because the color is what differentiates it. So the color of the hyperlinks are different from the surrounding text. However, a person with visual impairments or a person with color blindness cannot easily detect that this is a hyperlink because it's just going to show as shades of gray. So the automated tool will not tell you this. Text with poor color contrast and hyperlinks distinguished only by color. Automated tools will detect one issue. So it's telling you this has bad color contrast, right? Which it does, but it won't tell you that the content color alone is used to convey. Now, in this case, a better approach or best practice is to underline, so that even if you do this were in black and white, you can clearly see that this is a hyperlink. Now, other areas where color where people usually make that mistake of using color alone to convey information is error handling or in forms. For instance, you have a form and there are some required input fields, and they just use they tell you that the red asterisks, those marked with red asterisks, are required. That's not very good practice because people with color blindness are not going to see the color red. And this was one issue that I identified or I noticed while working on CM microscope. It was in the instruction on how to upload an image to the web application. So one of the steps to upload the image was to upload the image. After I've uploaded the image, click on the arrow link to move to the next modal. However, the screen reader doesn't catch the arrow link. So it just keeps that. It says click on link, click on button. So users won't know that, they won't know to click on the right button. So these are only issues that with manual testing you can identify. Automated testing it will not help. So another issue is scalable content. Automated tools will tell you whether content on a web page is scalable or zooming is allowed. Now, the screenshot says user scalable equals is used in meta name viewport element, or minimum scale attribute is less than 5. So basically, it's telling us that the content is not scalable. You can't zoom on it. And often persons with disabilities may need to access that feature. They may need to want to zoom on the text for them to see it clearly. So automated tools will tell you this, but it won't tell you if the content reflows when zoomed in. Now, this is another aspect of accessibility. Reflow means that when zoomed, content is presented in one column, a single column, so that scrolling in more than one direction is not necessary. So if the content doesn't reflow, it means the user will have to scroll vertically and horizontally at the same time. And that doesn't make for a good user experience. It's stressful both for people with disabilities and those without disabilities. So the screenshot shows an example of text content that doesn't reflect when zoomed. So you see, yes, there is the horizontal scrolling and the vertical scrolling bar that appear when the text is zoomed. So with these few examples, we found to realize that automated testing alone is not enough when testing for accessibility. It has its shortcomings, as we've highlighted with these issues. Now, where automated testing falls short, that is where manual testing comes in as a complement. So they're supposed to work together, not independent. Now we're going to discuss when to test manually. I know this slide is titled when to test manually, but strictly speaking, manual testing is done in all areas of accessibility testing. But on a general note, these are the areas where you need to test that you can't do the manual testing. So you need to test manually for issues that require human judgment, understanding of context. We've seen that so far from the examples I've given, evaluation of user experience, and assessment of content quality beyond mere technical compliance. So these are areas that are beyond automated tools where you need the human experience to identify issues and fix them. Now, what's to test manually? A very common thing to test, like it's easy to very quickly, is keyboard navigation or keyboard accessibility. So in addition to the three areas that we've already discussed, which are alt text, color usage, scalable content, these are some more things that you can catch only by testing manually. Keyboard navigation, for this, all you have to do is just forget that you have a mouse or a mouse pad, trackpad. Use your keyboard to navigate through the website. So, and these are things you check. You check that the tab order is logical and intuitive. So how do you, like, intuitive means what do the users expect when they're tapping through the website? Typically, you should have the skip to content link first, then move through the navigation on down. Usually typically from left to right, then top to also check that all interactive elements are reachable by keyboard. So this means all the buttons, input fields, drop down, modals, that with a keyboard, you can access those interactive elements. And you also check that focus indicators are clearly visible. So as you tap through, you usually have a focus indicator that wraps around the elements that you to show that that is what is in focus, that's what is selected. So that's we call it focus indicator. Focus indicator should have good color contrast. It should be clearly visible. So anyone that taps you can see that this is the element that has focus. So that they know at what point they are on your web page site. The second thing to test manually is screen reader compatibility. So with screen reader compatibility, you're checking that content is read in logical order, that images have appropriate alt text. I think I've mentioned that. Form fields have clear labels and instructions. So often you would need someone, if you're not skilled yourself, you need someone who is a screen reader user to do this testing. But it's advised to use people who have disabilities and who naturally use screen readers to do this testing. Then the third thing you check is semantic structure. That's the third thing you can test with manual, like you can test manually. Semantic structure, check that headings are used correctly and in proper hierarchy. I think Alice mentioned this in her, so you don't skip, make sure you don't skip headings. You can move from heading 2 to heading 4. There should be heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. Then the lists are marked up as actual list elements. And we have a screenshot of what a properly marked up list element should look like. it was Natalie in her talk, she implored developers, she implored everyone, particular developers, to make use of the push. She called it plain old semantic HTML. So all those tags, all those, they have meaning. And when you use semantic HTML, most of your accessibility, like most issues, accessibility issues, will not come with your websites. You don't have to challenges with those. The first thing that you can test manually is screen reader. Discussed this already. So page titles. So that must have been the next thing you can check manually is page titles. You check that each page has a unique description and title. This was one issue that I noticed with the project that I contributed to doing outreach. That's CA microscope. It had one page title for 2 pages. The information table and the data table had the same page title. So there was no way for users to know that where they were on the website. You can also check that titles accurately reflect the page content. So it's not enough that I think the W3C have a detailed guideline on how to name pages so that they make sense to the user. So off the top of my head, I remember you have to put the most important information first. So I think, okay, yeah, this is an example. This is this CA microscope, a screenshot of CA microscope website. Now, if you look at the tabs that open, we see this is the home page, the title CA microscope. On the data table page, data table. On the info page, you also see CA microscope data table. So we see that 2 pages have one title. They have the same title. So users navigating this website with the screen reader will not know that they are on different pages. They'll think that they are still on the same page. But now this is an example of what a good page title should look like. So this is a screenshot of the I ran the test on the WordPress accessibility day website. Let's to be sure that we practice what we preach. And fortunately, yeah, nice job, well done. So this is the home page. The first tab is the home page. So you have WordPress. It's not complete, but it says WordPress accessibility. Second tab is the about us page, and it's about. So it says clearly about the event - WordPress accessibility. Then on the schedule page, the title says schedule - WordPress accessibility. On the sponsors page, it says sponsors. That makes sense. So this is a good example of how to write up your page titles so that it's contextual to the users. So well done. Now on to best practices for manual accessibility testing. Use multiple assistive technologies. That is one. So when you're testing manually, remember that your users are the number of assistive technologies. There is, for screen readers, we have NVDA, we have JAWS. I use NVDA for testing. We have JAWS, we have VoiceOver for iOS. So most times this assistive technologies is dependent on the operating system that your users will use. So let's test with multiple assistive technologies to see how they read content, how you can use them to navigate your website. Try different browsers to ensure cross-compatibility. So don't just test on Microsoft Edge, test on Safari, test on Chrome, test on Opera Mini, because your users could be using those different browsers to access your site. The second point is to involve users with disabilities. This cannot be over. In fact, this should have been number one on this list. Involve users with disability. I know it says manual accessibility testing, but the manual there is to let the user, they are the ones you are designing for, they're the ones you created the products for. Let them test. And when you do that, make sure you have a large pool of test participants. You have people with a wide range of disabilities that could be using your site. So people with visual impairments that use screen readers, people with that are neurodivergent, you catch the drift. So make sure that your pool of participants are as diverse as possible. You want to be inclusive when you're testing. So how, you might say, I'm an expert at screen readers, I can test this by myself. How you, as a person with that disability, would use a screen reader or test the product is different from how a person with an actual disability using a screen reader would navigate the site. They might have shortcuts, and this is like second nature to them. So they have things that they usually look out for. Even if you have one participant that has a particular disability and that uses a particular assistive technology, still get another user who may have the same disability and still use the same assistive technology. Because how one person uses it might be different from how the other person uses it. This is objective. Is objective the word for it? Yeah. So I guess I hope I've passed the point across. Involve users with disabilities while testing manual. The third best practice is create comprehensive test scenarios. So you want to develop a checklist covering all the WCAG success criteria. I think the W3C have a template on their websites that you can use. I added that in the resources section. So, so it's very detailed, the template. It has all the requirements, everything that you need to test. And if you're new to accessibility and you're just testing for the first time, they also have a sort of condensed checklist that you could use to run a mini test, that first test, before you really go in it. Then the third, actually the fourth best practice is document findings story. Now, one reason it's good to document is you can identify the issues that your websites have, and then you can work towards not repeating that mistake. It doesn't make sense after fixing an issue, introduce it again. Just keep testing and testing. Record specific issues, steps to reproduce, and impact on users. So while contributing to CA Microscope, we used GitHub a lot. So I recorded the issues on GitHub. And the template for recording issues on GitHub had steps to reproduce, on what platform you face the challenge, what version of operating system you're using, stuff like that. So this gives a detailed information about the issues and how people can reproduce it. And it gives context around the issue. And then impact on users. Also setting the impact on users helps you know in what order to solve the issues when you're ready to fix those issues. So you might want to focus on resolving issues that have the highest impact on users. So those issues will take priority. Then the final best practice is test in various environments. Test in various environments. Check usability with different devices and orientations. So you can test on laptop, desktop, tablets, iPad, iPhone, Android. They're testing with different devices, different orientation, landscape, portrait. Also test under different network conditions. So you could use your 5G router to test. You could use your 2G network to test. to see, just they're trying to simulate how different people can, in different areas and with different disabilities, may be using your website. So these are the best practices to follow and testing manually, testing. Okay. Automated testing tools are just tools. So this is very important for us to keep. I know it's easy for us to want to do things, rust and sharp, and relegate automated accessibility tests to automated tools because this is it's very easy. But once remember that automated tools aids to make accessibility testing easier, not to replace manual testing. In fact, if you ask anybody, the main accessibility testing should be manual. And automated testing should come in as a supporting tool, as a complement, not the other way. So throughout the duration of this talk, there's nothing else. Please remember this point. Automated tools are just tools. They are not enough. Manual testing is very important. And we've seen that they are just issues that you can't identify with just automated tools. You need manual, you need to test manual. Then I want to leave you with this last word. Please remember that empathy isn't programmable. This is where the human experience comes in. It's not something that automated tools, they don't feel. They don't have empathy. I can't program that into an automated tool. And content isn't computing. So as we push forward in the digital accessibility, digital accessibility efforts, we want to embrace the power of automated tools. But we don't want to forget the irreplaceable value of human insight and our combined efforts, both human, machine, or software in this case, are what will truly make the web accessible for all. So these are links to resources. There's the full manual testing checklist on the W3C website and also the report templates. When you want to document, they have a report template. Yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. You can connect to me on LinkedIn at Victoria Nduka, on Twitter at @moa_Nduka. Thank you very much. I think we take questions now.
Thank you so much, Victoria. This was such a great presentation. For me personally as a designer, and I'm sure for everyone else as well, you made so many really important points. We have a couple of questions here. The first one is from Ayla. And I'm so happy that you've asked this, Ayla, because it's something that I wanted to ask you too. Victoria, what is the mistake that you find more often when you test a website? What's the thing that comes up the most for you, Victoria? Oh, I think your audio has gone, Victoria. I think you inadvertently muted yourself.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm sorry.
No
I was
problem.
saying the most common issue that I've encountered so far is color contrast issues. And which is funny because you can catch that with automated tools. That goes to say that most people don't take accessibility into consideration before designing their product, their digital product. So after the product has been launched, when you run tests, you see that these are basic issues that you should catch even before your project goes live.
Yeah, and it's a funny one because really it is kind of the easiest to sort out and to detect, and yet something like more than 80% of websites still do that. It's amazing. Yeah, Interesting. So the next question is from David Denido. I hope I pronounce it right. Probably not. Sorry. Where can I find a source of users with disabilities for manual testing?
I think, I don't know if there is a testing platform where you can recruit participants, specifically those who have disabilities, but that two things that come to my mind now is, I know it may already be late for it for some people, but in your hiring process, try to include people who have disabilities to work in your company. So when you urgently need people to test and you need people who have disabilities, they can easily come in and test the project. Alternatively, I think I saw in a Slack channel one time a project, somebody posted that they publicly posted that they need participants, specifically people who have disabilities, to test the project. And they offered incentives. So you could do the same. So you can post it, post on your website, publish it on LinkedIn, post on different communities, Slack communities that are advocates for accessibility. So you will find users who could test your site.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. And there are also, if you interact with the community, you can make friends with people with disabilities. There are, in the WordPress community, there are quite a few. You were about to say something, Victoria.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing quickly. Sometimes there are people who have disabilities, but don't know that they have disabilities. I saw a post on Twitter recently. There's this trend where they do bro to bro, like you just offer advice as a man to a fellow man. And there was one glasses user to glasses user, and somebody quoted it and said, "You have a disability." So most people, no offense, because I see you wear glasses too, but some people who have disabilities don't view themselves as having disabilities. So if you have people who use glasses, people who are elderly within your circle, they can test your products for you as well.
Exactly. I have a question, if I may. I wanted to ask you, are there any design issues that are not considered that are not part of the web content accessibility guidelines and that you wish they were? Like a particular design mistake that is not listed as a problem in the WCAG, but you wish it were?
None that I can think of right now, because the WCAG is really comprehensive. Even some issues that I didn't realize were accessibility issues, when I checked the site, I was like, whoa, okay. So right now, I can't think of. But
Okay.
if I do find something in the future, we'll most definitely write about it, publish it.
Okay. That's I have another one, if I may. I think we've got a couple of minutes, unless, is there anyone else that oh yes, there's another question from Alexander Gounder. Where does one start if they want to learn accessibility testing?
Okay. I'm going to answer this question from my own experience. So, because so during my attitude period, I first got introduced to accessibility. So what I did was, typical me, go to Google and browse. Research how to learn accessibility testing as a beginner, as a designer, those courses one way, but quickly, just so you don't, you're not searching in the dark, go to the W3C website. The link is in my slide already, so it's easier for you. They also have a course, Introduction to Digital Accessibility, is for everyone, content creators, designers, accessibility enthusiasts, developers, business people, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a very good introduction to
that's
accessibility.
yeah, that's a great answer. And also, one very good place to start, Alexander, is this session exactly. You're in the right place. There you go. So we have got to the to the end of this session with Victoria. Thank you so much, Victoria. It's been great. Thank you, everyone else, for attending. If you want to continue the conversation, you can do so in the chat later or on social media using the hashtag WPA11Y Day, remembering your camel case, and WPAD 2024. And we also appreciate it if you want to go to 2024 wpaccessibility.day/feedback to provide anonymous feedback for our speakers on their presentation. And you can also enter to win a t-shirt. So please stay tuned now for the next session coming up, creating a developer culture of accessibility at the top of the hour with Jesse Frio and Mark Stedman. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Bye.
Thank you to WordPress Accessibility Day 2024 sponsors. Platinum sponsor 20i. Easily build, deploy, and manage all your projects with 20i managed WordPress hosting. One UI for all your servers, apps, sites, databases, security, DNS, and email. Perfect for agencies, e-commerce, developers, multi-site hosting, and high-traffic sites. Platinum sponsor Equalize Digital. Since all they do is accessibility, every post on their blog is an accessibility resource. You can find webinar recordings, articles, and additional resources at equalizedigital.com/resources. Platinum sponsor WP Engine. WP Engine provides the most relied upon and trusted WordPress products for businesses, brands, and agencies of all sizes. Thanks to our gold sponsors, GoDaddy, Grackle Docs, Gravity Forms, Green Geeks, TPGI, and Yoast. And thank you to our silver sponsors, CodeGeek, Drake Cooper, Elementor, Overnight Website, Pressable, Second Melody, and Accessibility Collective.